I asked you guys in my poll yesterday about how you're feeling about the UK, if you're actually optimistic or not, and the majority of you said no, right? I think it was like 55%. 100 people voted, around 100 people. Uh, the majority say no, they're not very optimistic. Things are not going well. And there was some, I think about 16%, and then 16% was said sort of like it's okay or it's not great, but we still hope, we still have hopes. So I need to address this because I can see this is, and I can feel that is a sentiment around us pretty much everywhere, right? It's not just the UK. And this is what I keep talking about on my channel, like the West is in decline. And although it might feel like there's nothing else left, I think it's important to talk about how it actually goes in life, so to get some hopes up. And I'm not going to talk about uh, let's hug each other, singing, dancing, kumbaya is going to be fantastic. We're going to just meditate ourselves out of it. It will be nice, but I don't think that's the way forward. I'll tell you a couple of stories. One more from personal life, and I'll tell you a story about a country which was erased from maps in Europe for 123 years. And yet, after all that time, so what, like 4 generations, that country managed to come back. Okay, and that country is Poland. And probably not many of you know about this. And now so many of you are thinking like Poland is the place to go, right? It's like the best place in Europe. So this is important to understand, to have a perspective, like from going where you are basically erased from the map. Nobody knows about the country anymore. Yet you can't. There's no Poland going over to one of the best countries in Europe right now. Okay, so there's a hope everywhere. It's just because when it's dark, it's hard to see it. But I'll walk you through it. So first, I wanted to, acknowledge the life is hard right now for everyone, or at least for the majority, most people. We all know it. High, cost of living crisis, services falling apart. Um, it's general, like there's division in the country. We have this, obviously there's an immigration as a big challenge for the country, and we have this overall feeling of despair, right? There's like kind of like we don't have hope, and I think it's by this that's the reason not only we as a country can't move ahead, but I think this is actually by design, um, and it's part of the falling system. Okay, the falling apart system, and it sounds terrible, but I think it's overall is a good news. Okay, so I'll give you this analogy. It's like you probably heard it's like the darkest night is the darkest before dawn, right? So just before the sun rises, that's where it's really dark. That's where it's cold, at night, right? It's really, really bad. And this is where we are, I think, now as a country, as a West, as a people. Uh, we got to this very dark period, very cold period, thinking this is it. There's no more sun ever coming out again, and that's not true. I mean, you can all look back in the history of any country, and you will realize the every country goes through different cycles, right? We go up and down. Nothing is forever. Nothing good or bad. And we've had a good time for quite long, a few decades of good time in the West. We might have to go through some downsides now, maybe downside, but I don't think it's permanent. And I really think we're not far away from actually turning a corner. I think maybe 1 to 3 years. All right. So we're going to have to go through another 3 years of probably maybe even bigger challenges than right now. It might get a little bit harder. We still haven't had a financial crisis, which is somewhere around us. I can feel it. Many people can. We might have some conflicts in Europe. Who knows, right? There's a couple of unresolved conflicts going on in the world. There's another one brewing right now in South Asia, right? Thailand and Cambodia. So I think we are not there yet, but we are not far from sunrise, in my opinion. So I'll tell you the story of Poland maybe first to give you kind of a perspective and give you make you understand how important hope is. And it's not about hey, let's have hope and it's going to be nice. It's about going through what we have to go through, right? As an adults with hope. Okay, now maybe things will never work out. Who knows? Maybe the world will end tomorrow. Maybe for you or for me, will. But without hope, it's very, very hard to get through any day. regardless of what's for tomorrow, waiting for us for tomorrow. So if you wake up every day, right, and as I fear majority of people do in nowadays, especially in the UK, with no hopes because there's nothing around which makes you feel like, okay, there's some light at the tunnel, then I imagine it's going to be very hard to go through each one of your lives, and it's only going to get into the spiral of despair, okay, because it's contagious, right? Same as positive energy, positive everything around you goes spread across because people can feel it, uplifting energy. So, excuse me, if you have this very pressing mood and energy around you, people will feel it and it just spread across because everyone's like, oh, yeah, it's shit. What's the point, right? So imagine Poland in end of 18th century, 1795. I think that was the time where it was divided between three empires back then: Russia, Prussia, and Austria, right? And they just divided Poland between three of themselves, and they took it for 123 years. So 123 years, Polish people were not allowed to speak their language, cultivate their culture. There was nothing Polish allowed legally. So the only way to actually preserve a culture, language, was just doing it, living with a hope, right? Imagine, I mean, I can imagine 18th century must be difficult, right? Way more difficult than what we're living right now. No food, harsh winters, no electricity, none of it, right? It was really difficult, but people would still manage to get up every day, get through all of it for themselves, for their families, and still they will believe that somehow, somewhere, that Poland will return. And it did. It took 3 or 4 generations, I think 4, right? 123 years, generations of people to wake up every day with some sort of hope. Obviously, not everybody, they wouldn't be dancing, right? Hey, it's amazing. I have no food. Everybody hates me. Like, that's not it, right? But it's the part of living, part of the journey we all have as a human being. So if you can imagine, there were people in Poland able to go through all of it up until 1918, which ended up World War One, which was the darkest part at the night. That's what I'm saying. Right? This was the time where, imagine going all through this 50 years, let's say, right, as a Pole, knowing like that's never going to happen. It's already been 70 years. I'm going on for another 50. Nothing's changed. We can't speak Polish, and then at the end of it, you have a World War One to finish it off. It's like, oh my God, that's definitely done, right? We're definitely done. Nothing's ever going to happen, and then boom, somehow it all changed after the Second War, after World War One. The Woodrow Wilson, I think, the president, American president, he's acknowledged Poland as a country, and things changed for a little bit better. Then there was a World War II, which didn't happen, and then the communism. But Polish history is like this. Okay, we've had 200-300 years of real hardship from one defeat to another defeat, being written off the maps, then put it back on again, put in, World War I, II, then communism, like really bad. And we still are there. Now you guys thinking it's the best country, right? Think about this. It wasn't the best country because we had so nice, because we had so easy. It was because we went through all this hardship, and that's what makes us hardworking people. Honest, sometimes we're too, brave and too much. We have too much ethos of like these knights and like, yeah, whatever it takes. Give us all. We're gonna go and fight. We're gonna ride a horse and fight with the tanks, right? That's what happened in the Second World War. Excuse me. And the hardship we went through is actually built our characters and Poles, and we are kind of almost like indestructible, right? They keep trying, Russian, Germans, blah, blah, blah. Nothing like it's never permanent. And this, I believe, me personally, this is the mindset which helped me succeed in life and in business. Because ask anyone, if you know anyone who's in business, and I'm not talking about millionaires, because I'm like anyone who's got a business, a shop, like small, like even one man band, whatever, like anything where they are making their own money. Every person who actually makes it, the difference between them, the ones who are actually able to earn some money and the ones who don't. It's not they're super intelligent, they're not more lucky or anything. It's just the persistence. Because every single one of us, business people or parents for that matter, we have to go through hardship every day of our lives, pretty much, right? There's some periods when it's like nice, you go like, yay, it was all worth it, and then boom, something happens, and like, yay, and like, ask any parents, ask any of your friends running a business. This is exactly what it is. And the only difference is persistence, and what makes us persist in doing anything is the hope that tomorrow is going to be better than today. And today is better than yesterday. And we're not talking about changing the world. We're not talking about suddenly tomorrow I'm going to wake up and everything's going to be solved, problems, financial, whatever. That none of it, right? That doesn't happen. The same goes with country. It's about waking up every day thinking, okay, today's going to be slightly better because I still have hopes, because I have family around me, I have friends, I have this Polish immigrant talking to camera saying, hey, it's worth it. It's worth to wake up for the country, right? And that's my belief. And I want to share it because some of you are going to say, yeah, actually, you know what? It's right. It's not as bad. It's been much, much harder back in the day in the history throughout different periods in the UK, in West, in all of the countries. And nothing is final, okay? As long as we don't give up, there's no failure. Like again, this is another lesson, a great lesson from business for me. And that's why I like talking about business and life, because there's a lot of lessons, mutual lessons you can learn, and it helps you. Business helps you with life, life helps your business, etc. So as long as you don't give up, there's no failure. Yeah, you're gonna have bad days. You're gonna lose some money. You're gonna get ill. You're gonna, I don't know, get through some hardship. The moment you say that is it, when that is really it. Okay, so if you give up on your country, for whatever the reason, that is it, because there is no hope. You can't. It's not going to happen on its own. It's not going to just wait. This like Poland wasn't there back on after 123 years because I don't know, somebody throw the dice, right? Or somebody just Woodrow Wilson woke up one day and said, I think I'm going to put Poland back on the map. It's like, no, we've been persistently keeping up and again, keep bumping about, keep talking about being Polish, keep talking in Polish, fighting for what we want it to be, to eventually be rewarded with it. And it's going to be exactly the same with the West, with the UK, with any other country, right? It might not be great. The country might be going through another few years of hardship. We see the politicians and the powers. Uh, they make a lot of, I think, even desperate moves right now because of that, because it's getting to the point where they're just losing a grip, because people are just, although it feels hopeless, but they know it's not going to last forever, right? So the hope brings kind of a desperation, and desperation brings most people up and to say something, to do something, and they know it, right? So they want to avoid it. So that's why we have the harder measures of what we can talk about, what we shouldn't be talking about, being watched all the time. But that is transitional. That is a short period of time. It will end one way or another. And the choices we have, like if we lost all our hopes, then we all know how it's going to end. That's basically giving up. And there's no way you can do anything without actually believing in that. You can't get out of the bed. You can't have a breakfast. You can't none of it. You need to have some sort of belief in whatever you do. And as much as hard it is, I understand, I accept that. It's important to find that little spark in everyone, or each one of us, right? It's something. I'm not talking about changing the world. I'm talking about 7 years later. It's like tomorrow, what can I do a little bit better? Maybe I can wake up a little bit early. Maybe I can exercise. Maybe I can speak to somebody, to my kids, to your family, to friends, something, right? It gives you a little bit of hope day by day. Don't think about 7 years later, 3 years later. What's going to be my country next year? It will be there next year, right? But let's think about now, today, and next week. That's good enough, in my opinion. And that's when we don't even give up, because if you give up, there's nothing. There's nothing left. You can't run a business. You can't have a family. None of it. And if you're really, really down, think about not long time ago. I think Britain was going through really, really real problems back in the 60s or 70s. They were like bombings and stuff, like real stuff going on in the UK, right? And I bet if you would ask your ancestors, your parents or grandparents back then, there would be probably lots of people like, oh, that is it. Imagine after the World War II, Britain was so great, and now it's all gone because of whatever. Somehow, yeah, we managed, right? It changed. It got different. We got different country than it was 100 years ago, but the country is still here. You are here. I'm here. We just carry on. So what I'm saying is the country might not be exactly the same as we think, and I think it's not going to be. And I think the biggest change happened since the pandemic. That has changed everything. As people, we all forgot about this, right? It's like nobody wants to talk. We're now focusing on this current problems, which is that is it. But I just want to say to you, everyone, guys, that the biggest change to your country, the way we're living, will happen between 2020 and 2024. We don't want to talk about this, right? Or maybe we can't. But what I'm saying is things change, things go ahead. As long as we, as a people, have some sort of belief and we just carry on day by day doing what we can to make it all better, slightly better, that's all it matters, right? Nothing is going to change because some angry person gets out there and just starts shouting or something. Like, it has to come from all of us gradually believing more and more and just pushing it forward. You need to do your best, whatever that is, a job, family, raising, talking to people. That is it. It's only this, but it's also as that much, right? Because that's what pushes the needle. So if you're really feeling down, there's lots of you are, and again, I sympathize with it. I can see it, I can feel it, right? We all can feel it. You go out and it's so, especially in big cities, it's so heavy, the atmosphere, right? It's like, it wasn't like this, but it wasn't like this like 5 years ago. Things changed since. And now we kind of like even, I would even say, we're even catching up with some of the unresolved problems from the past. Because, and that's mainly financial reasons, I think, which is still to catch up. That's what I'm saying. It's going to get worse at some period, at some point, probably a little bit. Because we've been kicking down the can. We've been so long, and the politicians were just being kind of allowed to just ignore the core problems in the society and the country, which immigration is part of, right? We were not allowed to talk about this. We were like, just, we all know it, right? And then obviously the financial crisis, then we closed the economies, or all the economies, which was absolutely insane. People were not allowed to go leave their houses, like all these things, right? We forgot now, but they happened. And now we have the consequences catching up. Social consequences, financial consequences, all of it. So we kind of are responsible for it ourselves, for where we are now. It's probably very important life lessons for all of us. So we can either be, down and all doom and gloom, nothing else there, and you just give up on life, which I strongly encourage you not to. Or you can look at it as a life lesson, what not to ever do again, and maybe teach your children or your friends or your other family members, and just get on with it, right? Do whatever we can. Use the tools we have. Don't look for the, if only every person in the UK would understand, or every immigrant would go, like, it's not going to happen. Okay, so it's no point of you wasting your time and energy thinking about it. It's important to focus on what you have now, what you can do, and what you can do and I can do. It's not about changing the country. It's changing about you, yourself, your life, making sure it's as best as you can. And if you can't afford anything, you can't do anything else, at least try to find some hope, because that will allow you to go day by day. And you never know what tomorrow brings. We never know. That's in my darkest periods in my life. And I had lots of those. I always try to focus on just tomorrow, just get by today, see what happens tomorrow, right? And tomorrow I'll say, hey, look, yesterday wasn't that bad, so maybe today is not going to be as bad as yesterday, right? Or maybe even better. And eventually things change, but not because I was sitting down on my bum and doing nothing, but because I was going through some challenges. I was trying to improve whatever that was. Slowly, right? 1% a day or even less. Within a year, my life normally would look different. I would just solve most of the problems, and then I would just forget. And then 3 years later, I would look back and say, oh, that was a funny time or interesting times. But I dealt with it, so I became stronger. And that's exactly the same thing about country, right? So don't lose your hope. It's bad. I know it's bad. It might get a little bit worse. So get ready for that mentally. But it's not going to be fatal or anything. Nothing is fatal as long as we don't give up. Don't ever think about what happens in 5 years or how little power you have as an individual, because you have all the power. It matters. Every one of us can change our lives and make our lives more accountable. And then we have a collective. That's who we are, right? And that's why we're constantly being divided. That's why it's constant all this. The algorithm and the media, they keep talking about things which are very emotional for people, and they just losing their hopes. And that is the reason for it. That's why you're seeing it, because there's lots of money to be made through this. So I think that is it for today. I'll leave you with this, because I think I could talk about hope a lot, but I think it's enough for all of us to digest this. It's up to you and me, everything, really. I mean, if you want to give up, I'm not going to judge you, because it's hard. I consider not. Maybe if not for yourself, maybe have something else, something bigger for yourself on your life to live for. Maybe your family, your kids, because they will look up to you. They don't understand. My kids don't understand what we're going through as a country, and they don't need to. They shouldn't, right? They busy playing and just living their lives as a kids. So it's on me as a parent to actually put this weight on my shoulders and just carry it on, smiling, being optimistic, because there is no other way for me. That's the way I live. That's how I am. And I am this way because of the hardship I went through. I went through a lot, and as well as Poland, which most of you guys find it now as an amazing country. It's amazing because it went through a lot of shit. Um, so yeah, think about this. I think we're on the path to something better. It's gonna get better. The night is darkest before the dawn. So think about that. Thanks so much for your time, for your support. If you liked the video, leave me a like, consider subscribing to my channel. Leave me a comment if you like. Please be respectful and have a great day. I'll see you soon. Cheers.